Hey, what's going on, you guys? John here. In this video, I'm going to teach you about FHA mortgages, buying real estate with 3.5% down payment. 3.5% down, buying property. It's very affordable, very attainable for the masses to go out and buy real estate. But it's not all good. There's some pros, there's some cons to it, and I'm going to uncover all of them here so you can make the best and most informed decision with real estate investing. See where you kind of stand and see what you should do to make a smart decision. Because at the end of the day, we all want to make smart decisions, and you can't do that unless you have all the information. So first and foremost, the 3.5% down is super attractive and really easy to get your hands on. I mean, no matter where you live, a first month, a last month, and security deposit on an apartment is at least a couple grand. So if you're buying a $200,000 property or $300,000 property, to have $7,000 or $10,000 for a down payment is twice the cost of moving into an apartment. So it's pretty easy to get the money together. The other advantage is the credit score. The credit requirements are very easy. They're 580 and above, and 579 and below for 10% down payment. So to have 580 credit score is a good credit score is above 700, so 580 is kind of an average score. Another beautiful aspect is you can buy a triplex or a fourplex or a duplex or a house or a condo or a manufactured home, all these things through FHA. However, it varies state to state and location to location what the loan limits are. So if you're in San Diego, you can borrow $690,000 to buy property. But if you're in Madison, Wisconsin, it's $315,000. Another advantage is the debt to income. So this is what lenders look at before they decide to lend you money. They want to see what are your debt commitments every single month in comparison to your income. So if you're making, for easy math, $100 a month and your debt is $36, then you make the cut. However, with FHA is 43%. So 43% compared to 36%. So it's easier to qualify. However, this is where it gets a little tricky, and this is what you have to look out for with FHA. So you pay something called mortgage insurance, which is 0.85% of your loan every single year as a fee. So if you borrow $100,000, that means you pay $850 per year as a fee, which is not bad. It's about $75 to $80 per month per $100,000 you borrow. So if you buy a $300,000 property, you're gonna pay a couple $100 a month, which is fine. And you pay this until you have what's called 20% equity. So equity is the difference between what the property is worth versus what you owe. So if the property is $100,000, you owe the bank $80,000, congrats, you now have 20% equity and you can walk away from the FHA loan that you had. So this is exactly how I would buy an FHA deal and what I would be looking for if I was just starting out and had no experience. First and foremost, I'd be building a plan around getting ahead and getting financially free. And first and foremost, I'd look at where's my money going every single month? What are my main expenses? Probably rent, car insurance, gas, food, all these things. But the biggest expense is gonna be rent. So what I'd be looking for is a situation where I can buy a fourplex, live in one of those units, collect rent from the other three that will pay all of my expenses on that property, and leave me essentially with some cash flow at the end of the month. So I cancel out my rent payment. So if I'm spending $1,500 a month, me buying this property saves me $1,500 a month and enables me to save more money and get ahead and buy another property. But I'm looking for a specific type of deal. I'm looking for a deal where I can go buy this property for a substantial discount. I'm looking for a really good deal so then in 9 months or a year I can call the bank and do what's called a refinance, where they then send an appraiser out to the property. They confirm that there's 20% equity in the property and get me out of that loan. So that way I essentially bought a really good deal at a really good price, took a really good loan because the down payment enabled me to buy the deal and get out of renting, and then get out of that loan in a year. And then what's gonna happen is now I live in this property, I'm cash flowing, even more because now I'm no longer paying PMI, that mortgage insurance, which was a few $100 a month. and I'm saving money. I'm saving money. And now if I'm saving a couple grand a month, 2, 3, 4 grand a month, this enables me in a year or 18 months to maybe have enough money to buy another property with 20%, 25% down, and then have this rental property that's essentially going to be paid off in the near future, maybe 20 or 30 years down the road. It's going to be fully paid off, and those rents coming in from that building are going to position my retirement. So if they're now renting for $700 or $800 or $1,000 now, in 20 years, they're going to be renting for twice that price at a minimum. And it's going to just pay for my entire retirement. If that was, my ambitions were that low to just have the one deal, then that does it for me. It's going to provide more security owning that property than any boss or anyone else can ever do. But with all that said, if you don't know what you're doing, and you buy an FHA deal with 3.5% down, what's going to end up happening is you're going to be locked in paying these fees every single year until eventually you have 20% down. So right now we're in a really good spot in the market where things have been going well for so long. I mean, 11 years. It's been going well. Interest rates are super low. Property values are really high. And what's going to end up happening is you're going to have some people that are going to run out there and buy real estate because they feel like, they can buy it with 3.5% down. They're going to go buy it. Then the market's going to correct inevitably, which it always does. Markets always go up and down. Then they're going to be stuck in this deal paying these fees for 10 years maybe. So the key here is not just buying a deal that has 20% equity. You want to obviously position the equity plus a little bit of risk in that deal, so in the event that the market does correct, you still can refinance out of that deal. So what I would like to do is buy something that has that margin where I can go in, do some work, whatever I can do to increase the value of that property, and then secure that refinance and get out of that loan and build out that plan and that system to enable me to buy that other property. But the only way to really do this is not to just run out and call your lender and see if you can buy the deal and start. The best way to do this is to do the legwork, do the homework, and know your market. Drive the streets. Every street in your neighborhood, you should be driving it, seeing who's renting. You should be on apartments.com, you should be on Craigslist, all these third-party websites, looking at how much units are renting for versus how much they're selling for, understand the vacancy rates, and understand every single thing you could possibly understand about real estate in your market, because what's going to happen is the more that you know, the more likely it is you're going to win. That's just how all games, that's how poker is won, that's how all sports are won. The more you know, the better off you're going to be, and the more likely it's going to be that you make a smart and informed decision. Now, for me, I personally think that a fourplex is the way that you should start. FHA is a really good avenue for you if you put in that homework, because you're going to pick it up with 3.5% down payment, and inside of a year or maybe 18 months, you get out of that loan, you refinance out, you get a better loan, you no longer pay PMI, you have these 4 units, now you're positioned well to buy another property, and all the while, you're no longer paying rent. Because if you're saving 20% down for a $300,000 property, that's 60 grand. Plus you have to factor in the reserves and the closing costs, everything else could be 70 grand or 75 grand. And it might take you 4 years or 5 years to get there. And when you do get there, you probably wasted 50 or 60,000 just in rent from then to then. So I would highly, highly suggest exercising all your options, studying your market super well, and looking at what properties are selling, which properties aren't selling. I would get on the phone with a mortgage broker once I felt comfortable, and I would talk to them. And I would see if I qualify, and I'd get their opinion. I'd send them some deals, and I would take an overall look at my current situation to be sure that I'm not just gonna make an impulsive decision, run out, buy real estate, and then regret it a year or 2 years in. Because the reality is, investing is only fun if you make money. And I've seen a lot of people make a lot of money, and I've seen a lot of people lose a lot of money. And overall, that's just what happens when you keep your eyes open and you're paying attention to what's happening in the market. So right now is an interesting time because we've seen so much growth in prices, in rental prices, in real estate prices, to where it feels like it's never going to go back down, but things always do. Things always do. So be smart, make smart decisions, always calculate for things to go wrong, because they usually do. And you doing this is just going to increase the odds of you having a successful real estate transaction. Thanks so much, and please like, comment, and subscribe.